Hello class, in this video we are gonna go over the tutorial for how to set up your web server, right? I know that I provided you with a tutorial that I believe is well laid out, but that tutorial it is using a VPS and you're using a virtual machine, and it can get confusing if this is your first time working with Apache and virtual machines and all this other stuff. So in this video I'm just gonna go over the tutorial myself with you, so that if you find yourself lost, you can just refer to this video and it helps you out. So I'm gonna go here to Firefox and I'm gonna go all the way to the beginning of the tutorial, how to install Apache web server on Ubuntu 20.04. Where do you find it? Well, let's go all the way here and find our project deliverables right over here, this tutorial over here. If you choose Nginx, then you follow this tutorial, light PD, then this tutorial, and so on. But I'm gonna use the one with Apache, so let's move on. First, we're gonna update and upgrade our Apache, our web server, right? So we're gonna open our virtual machine, and I'm going to start my web server. Sorry about that. Okay, now let me log in. My username is webmaster and my password is ultra secure password. Okay, now we're gonna do sudo apt update and sudo apt upgrade -y. 1, 2, 3, enter. This shouldn't take long because I installed the web server a while back. By the way, I'm using 2204 in this video, but it's gonna work the same on 20.04, so you shouldn't have a problem on that. Okay, yes, okay to that. And we're done. Perfect. Now we're gonna clear our screen and we're gonna install Apache 2. So we're gonna do sudo apt install Apache 2. Press yes to that. And this installation should also go very fast. Okay. Click OK. Perfect. Let's clear our screen. And now that we have installed Apache, we can check if our web server is running. Let's obtain the IP address of our web server. So let's do host name -i, which is one of the many commands you can use. And now I can use that IP address to reach my web server. There is a problem though. If you see that IP address and I open a terminal here, host name, you can use ipconfig on Windows, by the way. Notice that the IP address of my computer and the IP address of the server is totally different. Two different IP addresses. So this is a problem. How do we solve this? Well, there are two ways. We can either use port forwarding on our virtual machine, or we can do bridge network on our virtual machine. If you go to our website and you go to guides and you go to click on SSH setup guide, this guide is going to guide you on how to set up secure shell or SSH in your Ubuntu server and your Ubuntu client computer, so that you can control your server from your Ubuntu client. But something very cool in this guide is that at the very beginning it tells us how we can then set up our virtual machine so that it is in the same network as our client computer. Now there are two ways. We can, like I said before, enable port forwarding, or we can set it as bridge. So if you click on network, you can change NAT to bridge and then click on save. The problem with this is, and you might ask yourself why there are two methods. If your network doesn't allow you to, no, I'm phrasing that incorrectly, my apologies. There are network settings and some intrusion detection systems and routers that have this feature as well, where if they notice that the computer is a virtual machine with a bridge adapter, they don't release an IP address to that machine. So they reject the connection. They reject the request to get an IP address. In the college, the network is like that. If you have VirtualBox and you're using a bridge adapter on your virtual machine, you won't get an IP address. That's the reason why the guide that I gave you also includes port forwarding, because port forwarding will eliminate that. I am in my home network right now, so I don't have this problem. So I'm gonna choose a bridge adapter. I'm gonna cancel this, and before I do that change, I'm gonna turn my computer off. So I'm gonna do tel init 0 or shut down now, same command, to turn the virtual machine off. And then in VirtualBox, I'm gonna settings, network, NAT, bridge, okay. And then start the virtual machine, minimize, and let's give it a second. Okay, let's log in. Webmaster, and then our super secure password. Now, if you do hostname -i, notice that the IP address of this VM is 192.168.1.188, and our computer's IP address, which is hostname -i, is that 194. Right, so they are in the same network as is indicated by the first 3 octets of the IP address being the same. Okay, so we're gonna close this because we don't need it, and we're gonna go back to our tutorial over here. Now, if you put this IP address on your web browser, you are gonna get the configuration page of Ubuntu. Now, if we do ls var www html, notice that in this folder, which is where this config file is located, you're gonna have an index.html file, and that's pretty much where you can put all your HTML files for your website, in that HTML folder. And that's it. This is the basic installation of Apache. Your web server is running. If your phone is on the same network as your virtual machine, you can access that website from your phone or any other computer that is in that network. But the tutorial doesn't end here, and your project doesn't end here, right? Because you still haven't created a simple website for me to see. So we're gonna continue on this path. The next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna adjust the firewall, right? So we're gonna allow HTTP, we're gonna enable the firewall. So we're gonna do sudo ufw enable, and that enables the firewall. So now the firewall is enabled, and if I refresh the page over here, well, I'm not gonna get anything. That's gonna stay on loading forever, because the request, this web browser is making an HTTP request to the web server saying, hey, I'm looking for a website that is located there, can you give it to me? And the web server is just like, I'm sorry, pal, I'm not gonna open the door, you're not allowed to see this, you're not allowed to come inside here, so no, bye, see you later, no. What we're gonna do then is allow only HTTP connections from Apache to come through. So how do we do this? Simple. We add Apache. You can see the services that have been added to the firewall by doing sudo uncomplicated firewall, UFW, that's what it stands for, app list. And notice that this is what we get. Okay, so we have Apache and we have OpenSSH installed. Now what we're gonna do is, hey, give me this. Show me what is currently being allowed. Nothing. So let's add sudo ufw allow in quotations Apache as is listed over here. Press enter, and now if you run the status command one more time, notice that refreshing the page doesn't stay on loading anymore, and it accepts the request, no problem. Okay, since we are gonna be using SSH, in our virtual machine to connect and manage the virtual machine from another computer, we need to make sure that SSH connections are also accepted by the firewall. So we're gonna modify this command to say open SSH. Press enter, and if we do a status one more time, we have Apache and open SSH as well, which is exactly what we want. Now that we've done this part and we have checked that the web server is running, by the way, you can always use this command, system control status, to see if any service in your computer is running. And you should include this in your documentation as well, because it's important to understand this. Now, let's simply, let's run that command as an example. Why not? Sudo system control ctl status Apache 2, right? Great, it's running. Now let's see if SSH is running. Perfect, it's running. Also, if you notice that your web server isn't running, or if the website isn't loading, it's a good idea to come and run that command, because if it isn't running, that command will also tell you why it is not running. Okay? This is perfect, we did that. Also include this in your documentation, because it shows a couple of useful commands of system control, which is really useful. And here, we're gonna set up virtual host, right? This is super useful because it allows an extra layer of security to our web server, right? Let's say that our project is gonna be called Project 101, right? Why not? Just call it Project 101 for the sake of this tutorial. So the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna create a folder called Project 101 over here. Now, we're gonna be typing a bunch of commands. So copying and pasting will be useful. But not only that, working directly on the web server, that's not really efficient. Because a lot of times the web server is not gonna be right there in front of you. Right? What if the web server is a totally different computer that doesn't even have a keyboard and a mouse connected? This is when SSH comes really, really useful, because we can connect to that computer securely and manage it. Let's do that. Let's set up SSH on this virtual machine. And for that, you can go to our website, click over here, and then click on Open SSH Guide. And it's going to give you this beautiful guide, of which we did the first part already. So we're going to continue with the second part. First, make sure that Open SSH server is installed on both the client computer and the server computer. We already know that the server has SSH installed, but we don't know if my computer, the computer that you're going to be using, has SSH installed. Right? Most of the time, most Linux computers have SSH installed out of the box, so you don't have to worry about it, but it's also a good idea to check. So I'm going to open a terminal, and I'm going to do sudo apt install open SSH server. And this should say that SSH is already installed, and it is. So we can close that. Next, we already did this. We already know that SSH is running. And now we can simply connect. Simple as that. We can simply connect. So we can do, from here, we can do, as a matter of fact, I'm going to remove SSH ID rsa.pub, right? ID rsa, q, okay. Okay, I removed those two because I had another SSH key over there and I want to get rid of them so that this comes clean. Now, SSH, the username that is going to be used in that computer, in my case, is webmaster, and then the IP address of my server, 192.168.1.188. Enter, let's type the password, which is my super secure password, and voila, we have connected to the server. We can now manage the server. I can turn it off. I can stop services, start services. For example, sudo systemctl status Apache 2. Notice that it's running now, right? And I can load the website because it is running. Now what happens if I stop the service? Notice that I restart the server, and what happened with my website? No longer accessible. Why? Because the service isn't running. And if I do a status command, notice that it says inactive, dead, not running. Let's start the service again. Give it a second. Okay. Come on. Okay, meanwhile that starts, it shouldn't take this long. I don't know why it's taking this long, but it shouldn't. Meanwhile that does its thing, I'm gonna go get a glass of water. I'll be right back. And I'm back, and it seems that my terminal is frozen. It's not responding. Yeah, in the middle of a video. Great job, great job. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna close this, and I'm gonna open a new terminal. Okay, connect again, and we're gonna start the service. Sudo systemctl start Apache 2. Okay, I start the service, and if I check it on my virtual machine, notice that yes, that works perfectly, right? So this is super cool, because if I don't want this window open at all, I can start my virtual machine headless. For instance, sudo, I'm gonna turn this computer off, sudo telnet 0, turn off, and I'm gonna open VirtualBox, start this VM headless, so that virtual machine starts in the background. It doesn't open a window or anything, because it's not needed. Why would I need it? I can just control the VM from a terminal now in my local computer. And we can simply do another SSH connection. By the way, if you want to get rid of this password, right? You don't want to log in with password. You don't want to be providing a password. You can do what it's called public and private key authentication, which will allow you then to log in using an SSH key, similar to how you do it with GitHub. Notice that when you do the git push, it doesn't ask you for your password, it just goes through, because it is authenticating using the private key in your computer. So we can do something similar over here. This part we already did, right? We already did this part. We already allowed SSH connection on our server. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do this part over here. So let's exit from our web server. Notice that it says webmaster over here, web server. I'm gonna type exit to close the connection, clear my screen, and then first generate a key value pair. Okay, press enter over here, press enter over here. I don't want any passphrase because this is a testing environment. If this was a production environment, then yes, I would do that. And then we are gonna copy this, we're gonna paste it over here, and in what it says server IP address, I'm gonna put the IP address of the server here. Don't forget to put your username on the server over here as well, right? Because you know, so why don't we just type the whole thing there? Master, which is the username of my user in the web server, 192.168.1.188, which is the IP address of the server. Press enter, enter your password, the webmaster's password, and that's it. If you try to log in now using SSH, you won't be asked for a password anymore, because your private and public key pairs will be used for authentication instead. We're gonna type clear, and now that we're in our web server, we're gonna continue our tutorial over here. Set up virtual host, perfect. So first sudo var www, and then what is the name of our project? We're gonna call this project 101. I mean, I'm gonna call mine project 101. You call it whatever you want. pcc. Oh my god, I forgot the mkdir command. Ooh, what a silly man. Done. Then we're gonna change the owner of that folder, right? Currently the other folder is owned by root. We're gonna change that to our user, and for that we can use this command over here. Right, so we Sean -r for recursive, user. This is using the environment variable of your username, and you can replace that for your own username if you want, or you can run it like this and it's gonna work the same way. And oh, it froze again. This sucks. I need to troubleshoot this and see why it's freezing. I'm not gonna wait for it. I'm not gonna wait for it. I'm gonna create a new connection. Okay. And our folder is called Project 101. Press enter, type your password, and you're done. And now we're gonna change the mode, the permission to 755 of our folder. So we're gonna do sudo change mode -R for recursive 755, and then var www and project 101, and that's it. Next, we are gonna create a little website inside project 101. So we're gonna do sudo. They are using Nano over here. I'm gonna use Vim. You can use Nano if you want, that's fine, or you can use Vim if you like. It's up to you. Var www project 101 index.html index.html enter. And I'm just gonna copy this because yes, why typing if we can copy? Done. And now we are gonna edit this file over here, right? We're gonna create this file and we're gonna put in this information in that file. So we're gonna do vim again. So we need sudo over here, sudo vim etc Apache 2 sites available, and then we're gonna do project 101.conf. Press enter, and we're gonna copy this. There are a couple of things here that we're gonna modify. First, we are gonna change this. Since my username is called webmaster, I'm just gonna leave it at webmaster at localhost. My domain is gonna be called server name. Domain is project 101. Oh, sorry. Do project insert project 101, and then the alias will be project 101, and over here we're also gonna do project 101. Okay, and we leave the rest as is. We save and quit, and now we enable we're gonna enable our site with A2 end site. So we're gonna do sudo A2 and then project 101.conf. Enable, and now it is done. Now we're gonna reload our Apache 2 service, so it reloads the configuration with sudo systemctl reload Apache 2, and it's done. Now we're gonna disable the default. We can just copy this and paste and enter, and we're gonna reload again. Let's reload first and then let's check the config. Done. Now let's make sure our config is proper and syntax is okay. We're gonna restart the service. Oops, sorry. And you're gonna type paste. Now let's reload our website, and voila! Success! Your default, your domain has a virtual domain and it's working. Bingo! Great! Perfect! Our project is going just like my rice is going. Perfectly cooked. Okay, now you should read this, and you should include this in your document as well. This is important. You should get familiar with all of these config files for Apache, right? Because if something breaks, this is where you're gonna fix it. Now, let's build a website. We want something very simple, something super simple. So what I'm gonna do is that I am going to open VS Code on my computer, code. And I'm gonna go to extension and I'm gonna look for Bootstrap. And I'm gonna use Bootstrap 5, so I'm gonna click on Bootstrap 5, code the snippets, yep, quick load the snippets, and this is the extension I'm installing on my computer. Install. Okay, so now I'm simply going to do a new file, and I'm gonna call this index.html. Now let me just new text file, save. I'm gonna save this inside docs so I can delete it later. Index.html. It doesn't matter where you save this file. I'm only using this text editor for sake of speed, and in the extension that I installed will allow me to do the following: exclamation mark B5, and if you press enter to that, it will generate an HTML site, a very plain HTML site with Bootstrap, which is a CSS framework already installed for you. And over here, inside the body tag, right over here, I'm gonna put an H1, press enter, I just H enter, and I'm gonna call this is my website, right? Then here I'm gonna put a P tag, my name is your name, period. I study your career here, here. I just finished creating a web server, okay, perfect. Here, let's do another P tag. Here is my GitHub page, right? And let's do an A tag here for links, right? And over here we're gonna put our, okay, so GitHub, Linux workshop 67. No. As a matter of fact, I'm just gonna copy the URL for GitHub. This is just here, paste here, and what if we put an image too? Let's do image, enter, and let's put a source. And here we're gonna put Linux logo. Here, copy image source, copy image link, paste that in the source, save. And I'm gonna open here, and I'm gonna click on extension, and I'm going to install live server. You should have this extension installed over here because you installed it on your virtual machine a while ago. Close here, and we're gonna do right click and open with live server. This is gonna allow us to preview our website in our browser. And there you go, a very simple website that we just coded. So we're gonna close this, right? And we can just copy this, and we can do vim, sorry, let's go back in here. I seriously don't understand why this is freezing so much. Close that. I'm gonna open a new session. It shouldn't be freezing this much, so I apologize ahead of time. I will troubleshoot that as soon as I have a moment. Var www, and then we're gonna go inside our website, which is project 101, and then index.html file. We're gonna edit this file, press enter. I'm gonna delete all of this content because I don't need none of that. And I'm going to simply copy this, and paste here. There are better ways to do this, of course. You can, but this is as much as I'm gonna require from you. I'm not gonna require any more of you. Just this is fine. You can later on expand on this, right? Like adding a file server so that you can send your files, you know, via the command line, or that you can send the command via FTP or SFTP and things like that. You know, but write and quit. Oh man, sudo. Okay. Okay, done. And now if I refresh my page, notice what we got. Our website. And you can access it from your phone, from anywhere else. And if you want this website to be available to the world, enable port forwarding on your browser, on your on your router. And that's about it. This is the Apache tutorial on how to set up the web server, SSH, and everything. If you got to this point and you were able to do it this way, document your work, and that's your deliverable number 3 over there. Done. If you have any questions, if you're encountering any problems, we can hop on a call. Just reach out to me via Slack. See you later.